Well, this week we begin our 5-week journey through the topic of legacy, a church-wide emphasis that we're going to be doing through Bible Fellowship. And I have with me, of course, Pastor Don and Roger McGee, our pastor to worship and music. And Don, as we begin to think about this topic of legacy, we came together as pastors. We talked about it. We prayed about it. We're going to be looking at relational legacy, spiritual legacy, financial legacy, and then how as a church corporately that we are making an impact to last beyond our lives to the next generation. And so I'm curious, as a pastor, Don, how does knowing that we have stepped into a legacy of those who've left behind, and now it's our time, how does that impact the way that you pastor?
Oh, it has a great impact. I'm very aware that ours is a historic church. We didn't just show up. A great host of people have been faithful over the centuries to make us the church we are today. There are two times I think about it. Every time I'm in the baptistry, I'm waiting to come in, the choir's singing or whatever. I'm standing back there and I look at the baptistry picture and I think of the people over the years who've stood right where I'm standing, who've gone through those waters, and that reminds me of my responsibility. And then another time, in our hallway, I think our folks know, there are pictures of all the previous pastors, and half of them have beards, and half of them are clean-shaven. And it's like a gauntlet. I have to walk by them every day. I wish there was a way around it, because I kind of feel guilty. I walk through, and I think they're staring at me. And I think they're looking down their nose at me, and they're saying amongst themselves, not so I can hear it, but when I get away from them, what right does he have to follow in our footsteps? But it's a great heritage, and I want to be true to it. I want to be faithful to it.
That's great. And you're right. We've been in existence as a church for 210 years. And Roger, each week when you get up and you lead music that's been written by people just over the past couple of years, and then those who've written music centuries ago that we still sing, and that ties us to our past. So how does knowing that those people who've gone on before have used their gifts in composing music, leading music, singing music, how does that affect the way that you prepare for worship?
Well, I know that my voice is really weak after having done several rehearsals today. But I'm going to say that I really love old hymns. And that doesn't mean that every hymn that's in the hymn book will stand the test of time. We've had numerous hymn books, but there are several that have stood the test of time, and we sing them here a lot. Great is thy faithfulness. A mighty fortress is our God. Praise to the Lord the Almighty. Holy, holy, holy. Because we recognize the message that's in those wonderful hymns. But we do love the legacy and the teaching that's in an old hymn, but we love the freshness that's in a worship chorus like We Will Remember that we sang just today. We're reminded of what God has done down through the ages, but what he's done for me, what he did for me when he died on the cross, what he did for me when I accepted him as Lord and Savior, what he's done for me just this past week, what he's done for me just today. And so in worship, we want everyone to reflect upon what God has done in their lives in the past, in the present, what he will do. And we want them to acknowledge that in worship, singing from their heart to the Lord, who is an audience of one. So the audience is not the folks in the pew. It's not the choir. It really is the Lord. And so we're working to get that concept across, that we're worshiping the Lord.
That's great, and that's exciting. This coming Sunday, our teachers are beginning to prepare, of course, for that first lesson. We're going to be looking at the Shema out of Deuteronomy chapter 6, where we look at the legacy Moses left with the people of Israel. And within that, of course, the Shema emphasizes loving God with all your heart and all your soul and all your strength. Don, how do we do that practically? What does that look like?
I love studying the Shema. When they asked Jesus, what's the greatest commandment? You remember he answered by pointing to that. He said, the greatest commandment is to love the Lord your God. And it means, what he's saying is, with everything you have, your heart, your soul, the real you, your strength. And I think what that means is you give everything you have, everything you know of yourself, to everything you know of God. Now, that may not be a lot on either account, but you give everything you have to him.
That's great. Well, both of you know this is the third time we've done a church-wide emphasis. We looked once at the importance of evangelism. Secondly, we looked at spiritual disciplines and practices. And now this time about the legacy we leave. Every time we've done this as a church, we hear great responses. People are excited that we're all kind of unified and doing the same material. People give great reports of things that they're learning. Don, Roger, what are some things you hope people will take away from this study? Roger?
Well, every time I get to meet somebody in this church and get to know their story, I'm reminded of how good God is, how good he has been to me, and I'm reminded of things that maybe I never really gave him credit for or never sat down and reflected upon. And so collectively, when we worship together and we share together, we are building each other up and we're sharpening each other. And it makes us stronger as a church. That's why being together is better than just having independent worship separate, because we can strengthen one another. And Jesus Christ, the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. We know because he was who he was yesterday and who he is today, that we can trust that he'll be like that tomorrow. I'll leave it a legacy.
Yep.
Yep.
You know, the text right after the Shema, it talks about teaching these things to your children as you walk along the way. And by studying together like this, then we're all on the same page. And we'll do this in Bible fellowship, and we're going to do it in the services. Roger and I are putting together services that go right along with this. And it gives families something to talk about along the way. And I'm praying we're all going to be awakened to the importance of legacy.
That's great. Well, teachers and leaders, this is week 1. So do well, study well, and we'll be praying for you. We kick it off really great as we think about legacy. Thanks.